Let's continue to read the story of Tencent and China's tech ambition. Pony spared no effort when it came to building his future command center. First started in 2012, Tencent's newest office building took 5 years and more than $500 million to construct. Ma handpicked NBBJ, the architect responsible for Amazon, Google, and Samsung's iconic headquarters. But the billionaire wanted to be more than a statement of a financial legacy. With its twin gleaming towers of glass and steel, he turned the building into one of the world's biggest laboratories for new interest services and connected devices. It features holographic tour guides, conference rooms that adjust temperatures based on attendance, and alerts for the best parking spots before commuters arrive. Quote, "In China today, there has never been smart architecture of this scale," said Evan Wang, Tencent's then chief architect, who oversaw the project. Using our building as a massive testing field for the next generation of smart devices and technology is what makes this project iconic. What struck me was within the house of a building that served as a towering paean to futurism and commerce. The Communist Party's influence was omnipresent. In its open space reading room, alongside books about the cosmos and the ancient Greeks and Roman empires, Chinese President Xi Jinping's book, tabulating his speeches and thoughts on how to govern, featured on the most prominent shelves. The company extols the victories of the Chinese Communist Party even in its gym. Imprinted on its 300-meter running tracks are penguin-shaped QR codes. When scanned with smartphones, it brings up stories documenting battle victories during the Long March, the Red Army's epic flight from the then-ruling Kuomintang Army, later branded as Chairman Mao Zedong's genius gambit to preserve the forces of the revolution. One penguin brought up a picture captioned "Bloodbaths of the Xinjiang River," and another, "The witty conquest of the Jinsha River." Party officials love this when they see it. A Tencent employee told me as she clapped her hands in a gesture imitating the cadres described. Pony himself is a member of China's Legislative Council, which, along with the country's elite, mostly party members, convenes once a year in Beijing to discuss the nation's agenda. It's one of the rare occasions when the Mongol steps into the limelight and offers a glimpse into his persona. That doesn't mean he likes it. A flustered pony was observed in 2019 fleeing a blogger who beseeched him to relax internet censorship. Quote, "Can you ask them to not keep deleting our accounts?" The person pleaded. Pony uttered not a word as he dashed away. His talent for operating in such an environment, a gift for survival, as a private entrepreneur in a state-dominant economy, partly stems from his upbringing. Ma was born on 29 October 1971 on China's southern island of Hainan. He began life in the midst of Mao's violent Cultural Revolution, during which tens of thousands were persecuted at the hand of Red Guards, sometimes their neighbors, colleagues, and even their own children. Until today, few speak of the atrocities, particularly those that they themselves committed. It scarred a generation of people who were taught the value of erring on the side of caution and vigilance when it came to matters of politics. Pony's father, Ma Chen-su, was a native of Guangdong, a region known for industrious businessmen. A party member, the elder Ma relocated to the balmy backwaters of Hainan after cadres were asked to help with economic development. He rose through the ranks of the local port authority, taking stints as an accountant and then a resource planner. Decades later, the island would become famous for fostering, at the time, the boom to end all booms, when a generation of young people was consumed by avarice and the pursuit of asset wealth, only to be crushed by the bursting of a massive property bubble. The Ma's resided on the island's western tip, an area inhabited by the Miao minority, known for their tattooed faces, silver accessories, and vibrant clothing. At night, a young pony gazed into a sky full of stars, piquing his interest in astronomy. He clearly clings to his memories of growing up there, as Tencent would later choose Hainan as a key base for cloud computing and a data center. Pony was 13 when his father was reassigned to a Shenzhen state-owned port authority. Leveraging his knowledge in finance and accounting, he became a manager, then board director of the company, giving his son an invaluable introduction to the intricacies of the corporate world. Second child to an older sister, Pony was quiet, well-behaved, and largely unnoticed during his school years, according to his teachers. At 13, he was a scrawny figure of a little less than 5 feet, always sitting in the front row of the classroom. One thing that stood out was an obsession for telescopes. As a child, he crafted one based on instructions from a popular kids' science magazine. Pony says he still remembers that. In April of 1986, he was the first in his school to spot Halley's Comet thanks to a high-end 80mm telescope that cost 700 yuan, 4 months of his father's salary, which he got for his 14th birthday. It didn't come easily. His initial pleas were dismissed, but his mom spotted in his backpack one day a journal in which the teenager boy declared that his dream of becoming a scientist had been squashed by his parents. His father eventually gave in and bought him the telescope. Pony used it to snap a photo of the famous comet, which he included in an essay that he mailed to Beijing as an entry in a science competition. He came in third. After Pony grew fully immersed in the digital world, he would seek solace in his childhood obsession. Quote, "Doesn't the internet look like an uncertain, forever exploding galaxy?" he once said. It was in middle school that he would meet 3 of his co-founders for Tencent, Xu Chenye, Chen Yidan, and Tony Zhang Zhidong. All of them attended prep classes for the Math Olympiad, an international competition extremely popular among Chinese students. Only Pony joined an astronomy club. The teenagers would often spend time competing to recite pi digits in the hallway after class. At one point, Chen recalls, they got to about 100 digits. Pony and his friends' obsession with STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, was partly rooted in educational policies geared towards nurturing the talent needed to jumpstart the country's industrial manufacturing apparatus, an attempt to get the economy back on track after decades of turmoil. For the first time in a century, China seemed to be on the brink of actual liftoff. The winds of change were stirring. In Pony's school, people repeated epigrams such as 时不我待, meaning time will not wait for me. Then something happened just a year before Pony attended university in 1989. A rift in invasion for economic development, state-driven versus market reforms, led to faction conflict within the ruling party that eventually spilled into the public domain. Thousands of students took to the streets of Beijing, occupying the capital's iconic Tiananmen Square, demanding democracy and the freedom to write their own destinies. It also happened that Mikhail Gorbachev, General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, visited the city around that time, the first head of a state to travel to China since the two countries severed ties more than 3 decades earlier. The foreign press covering that summit were captivated by the protests that subsequently erupted into global spectacle. Quote, unbelievable. We all came here to cover a summit, and we walked into a revolution. End quote, a CNN correspondent in Beijing said at the time. Let me stop here.